More and more often every week, I am asked questions about disease states that I won't even mention the name of the diseases because it's not what I'm going to be doing to help them. It's not my position to treat any condition, and that's not what I want to do. I support clients by exploring the terrain in which these conditions may have developed. That includes lifestyle factors like nutrition, their immune strength, metabolic health. My role is to empower the individuals with insights that may help create a more supportive internal environment for healing while they work with their medical team on treatment. So I'm going to hear a lot of questions, and I know that there's a lot of conditions out there that people want to know specifically about. My goal with you is to help to learn that there is something in your body that may you have been missing for decades that could be contributing to the condition that you're struggling with now, and to encourage you to take action now to strengthen that so that it doesn't become an issue later. Today specifically is a part of our immune series, and we're going to talk about vitamin C and the importance of reducing those things that compete with vitamin C and weaken your immune system. So I'm going to share with you an analogy that a practitioner who's a mentor of mine used to always give when he would give a talk about any condition that somebody has. And he said, look, every new client who comes in or patient comes in is like an old farmhouse. Now, this picture is a really old farmhouse. And, you know, some good times have happened in that farmhouse, and some good food and some happy things have happened there. But in order to keep that farmhouse thriving and the ability for people to actually live in it, you can clearly see it needs a touch of paint and maybe a couple other things. So we're going to bring in a construction worker, and they need to rebuild that front door. Obviously, we need to put windows in. That's kind of a priority. We don't want wild animals and you know, rogue, crazy things coming in the window while we're trying to sleep. But if there's a fire in the kitchen, it does not matter if you have a front door or not. That house isn't going to last if the fire's there. And so my mentor taught me that we have to put out the fire before we start to rebuild anything in that house. And I think this is so important. Now, today, I had a client that I was speaking with who is trying to overcome a very serious illness. And as she's talking to me, we're talking about her diet. And I've learned over time that, yes, we need to put out this fire, the inflammation. But more importantly, we have to stop people from pouring fuel on that fire. And what I mean by this is that she was telling me she was worried because her hemoglobin A1C, a marker about blood sugar, is going up. And I said, okay, well, let's look at what you've been eating. She said, well, I've been drinking Boost for the last 3 months in the hospital, and I've been eating Lucky Charms every day. So sometimes somebody's not just pouring a little bit of fuel on the fire that we need to stop. They've got multiple things pouring fuel on this fire, and we have to stop the fuel first from being poured on that fire, because there is a link between sugar and cancer and tons of diseases that we need to be aware of. In fact, in this study, there's a lot of people who are resistant to accepting this, and I get that because there's a lot of love when it comes to food and sugar especially, but we have to be aware of the truth. This research suggested that there was a direct link between sugar and cancer. Preclinical trials and studies with people showed that high fructose or high sucrose diets activate several mechanistic pathways, including inflammation, glucose, lipid metabolic pathways, suggesting a causal link between excess sugar consumption and cancer. And so it says down here that concerted action is needed to lower sugar intake in the United States and other countries, better inform the public of the risks of excess sugar intake, and conduct more robust research in the field of added sugar and cancer. So this is what I'm trying to do right now, is better inform the public of the risks of excess sugar intake, because it is in excess. There is overabundance of sugar everywhere we turn. We're drinking sugar. Sugar's being added to so many things. And it seems like we can't celebrate something without there being a ton of sugar. And I get that. I grew up just like all of you, where my grandmother and other people who loved me showed their love with sugar. So I associate that with sugar. And when somebody has something hard in their life, you want to give them something sweet. This individual who was eating her Lucky Charms were being given those Lucky Charms by her loving partner who wanted her to be happy. Now, that is unfortunately something we can't continue to do because it is not really helping. It's helping very, very short term to make them feel okay, but it's adding fuel to the fire. We have to think about other ways to be able to do this. I mean, in the office here, we have fresh raspberries and blackberries and strawberries, and they're so sweet and so good. These are a real viable option. I know it sounds crazy that I'm saying this because we're all so conditioned, but maybe we can start to sometimes not feel like we have to have a cake. Now, a cake alone, the word, my friend Jen put it to me this way, and I'll never forget it. She said, Dustin, cake is a kiss with a smile and another kiss. Just think about it. That's the kiss, cake, and then you smile, and then it's another kiss. It's a smile wrapped in two kisses. I'm like, come on, how are we ever going to get away from cake? Yes, cake is wonderful, and a piece of cake is a wonderful thing. But we have to be mindful of the excess, and we have to be real about the actual dangers. And so when I work with people in my elite longevity program, I do need to see them regularly because they're very quick to go out into the world and it becomes normalized again that there's tons of sugar everywhere. And they forget that it is something that is not contributing to their health and could be very well contributing to a destruction of their long-term goals in their health. So I just want to drive that home. I know it's not a very popular opinion, but I unfortunately have to be the person who's accepted this role to let people know that sugar in excess is something that we really have to start to be careful of. And when it comes to our immune system, more importantly than ever, we have to be aware of it because look at these sugar cells here. I love this graphic that was created by Dr. Jockers. The white blood cell can only destroy 25% as many viruses and bacteria when sugar is present. Now, when you have white blood cell able to destroy the maximum number of viruses and bacteria, that is when there is zero sugar present. So vitamin C, 50 times the concentration versus 13 if there's sugar. White blood cells, major players in the immune system functions, carry more vitamin C than any other type of cells in the body. So we want them to be able to get this vitamin C in there so they can do what we want them to do. More about vitamin C. It is an essential micronutrient for our humans. We cannot produce it on our own. This is interesting because animals can produce their own, which is something I learned awfully late in my career as a nutritionist, but I find it interesting. It's a potent antioxidant and a cofactor for a family of biosynthetic and gene regulatory enzymes, supports multiple cellular functions of both the innate and the adaptive immune system. There's many, many things that it can do for us. In fact, we need to make sure we're getting a regular dose of this, and we need a whole food version of it. So many times people think that ascorbic acid is vitamin C, and unfortunately, that is not the whole story. There are many components to a whole food vitamin C when it comes in nature. And this is where I use that analogy about a football team, right? So the ascorbic acid is a part of it. It's a very important part. Just like the quarterback for a football team is a very important piece of the football team. But if you put that player on the field without the rest of his team, he's going to get destroyed. We have to have all of these other cofactors to help things function. And that is perfectly illustrated with vitamin C. And this is important to remember. And so when I'm giving people vitamin C sources, I'm always going to tell them about whole foods. And remember, this too much versus not enough situation is really important to remember with water-soluble vitamins. Vitamin C deficiency is more likely because it is water-soluble, and depletion of vitamin C tied to excess sugar intake makes it doubly important that we have to pay attention to it. So when you're looking at those emergencies, they actually have sugar in them. So it's competing with the ascorbic acid uptake because of the glucose in there. Vitamin C deficiency should be considered for a redefine protocol, of course. We must have that in there. And zinc will be next, but we'll talk about that another time. So what are some whole food sources of vitamin C? Well, my favorite, and not many people's favorites, but it's one of the top ones, is actually sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is one of the highest whole food natural sources of vitamin C, and it also provides a little bit of support for your microbiome and a little bit of other nutrients that are going to support your whole body health. So every day, full disclosure, I have a jar of organic sauerkraut and I take a forkful and that's it. I just get a little bit every day so that I don't run the risk of losing it. But also, as I stated before, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, these must be organic, by the way. They are on the Dirty Dozen list, so please keep that in mind. But they are also a great whole food source of vitamin C. And just to drive this point home, we talk about these diseases that we have to be so concerned about because they're on the rise, but viruses can lead to that. So we have to have the vitamin C to help us to be able to keep that under control. And again, I showed this research earlier, but this is specifically for people trying to achieve longevity. So I want to point out also that as we age, we really have to keep strengthening our immune system, because it's believed right here. The bad news is that as we age, our immune systems gradually deteriorate too. And I take issue with this. I believe if we could actually do research that ruled out the fact that people aren't getting appropriate levels of all of these immune nutrients, would this still hold true? If you're younger than 60 in good health, you don't have too many bad habits, then your immune system's probably functioning well enough to keep you safe from almost any infectious disease, including coronavirus, according to this article. But I would say, why can't we just keep our immune system strong? Because the older we get, the more important this is. An estimated 90% of deaths resulting from pneumonia occur in people 65 years or older. And case fatality rates peak at 50 to 60% for individuals over 85. So our immune systems do seem to be more and more in need of this help as we age. And so it's more and more important that we strengthen our immune system. Sorry, my camera keeps going blurry for some reason. I don't know, maybe you want it blurry. One last thing. Okay, so this individual that I started this story about, who came in this morning, and she was telling me about how she was drinking Boost, and this is what's been given in these hospital systems. In fact, she said that she was told that, it doesn't matter, eat as much ice cream as you want, eat all these other things. And I really want us just to be aware that just because this is being told to be given to somebody by people who are in a healthcare system does not mean that it is not chock-a-block full of sugar. 15 grams of sugar in one serving of this. So just take a look at these ingredients. I know that people think that they're doing things that are good for them, their health, but we really want to stick to whole foods. That's really the best thing that I can say about all of this. So at the end of it all, I want to encourage you to know that the stronger you keep your immune system, the better your chances of surviving through so many different things and being able to enjoy longevity for as long as possible. And whole foods are truly going to be your best ally in making sure that you are supporting your immune system. There's so much we can do. There are herbs out there that can help us. But before we start employing those herbs, we want to make sure that we have all of the things in our body for those herbs to help us mount a defense against any type of pathogen or immune invader that is out there. Thank you for watching. There's a lot of information in this, and please do leave comments and challenge the things that I'm saying, because I want to make sure that when we're talking about this, we're talking about a way that only empowers people. I understand we have a lot of resistance to this idea that sugar is so bad for us, but the unfortunate truth is really in black and white there, and we just have to keep it in appropriate amounts, in appropriate times, and as close as we can get it in nature as possible. Again, thanks for watching. And for those of you who are looking for more and more information, that's what I'm here for. Please keep the questions coming, and I'll continue to give my best to make these videos interesting and useful. And I will see you every Thursday talking about ways to strengthen your immune system.